art studio. Today we are going to repurpose some empty glass containers into little tea light votives or tea light candle holders. So let's see what we're going to need for our project. This is what we will be making today. We're just going to put a band around our glass container, and we are going to put a little cutout on top of that. So for that we are going to need, as I said, a recycled glass container. If you don't have, you can also pick some up from the dollar store. This is from Costco. They sell little desserts in here. This is another one from Costco. They also sell desserts in there. And this one you can find, most grocery stores sells yogurt in these ones, and this is the one that I'm going to use today. And in all three of them, these little tea lights, and they are battery operated. I pick them usually up from the dollar store as well, so I'm going to use that to put in. We're going to need our pewter, and for this specific one it is 7.5 inches around diameter to fit around, and it is 1 inch wide, and then enough for our design, so we can do our designs. I've decided to go with 3 feathers today, so I've made sketches of the 3 feathers that we're going to emboss in the pewter. And with that we are going to need the painter's tape to adhere our pewter to the design, or the design to the pewter. Once we are done, we're going to use Sookwang tape to put everything together onto our glass votive. You can also use glue for that. Tools that we're going to need is we're going to need a pencil to transfer our design, a paper stump, a Teflon tip tool, and a stylus. And then we're also going to use a water-based permanent marker to do some blackening with, and I just have some paper towel here to use for the blackening, or with the blackening. We're going to need scissors to cut this out, and of course we are going to need our pewter or metal embossing work surface. I also add piece of paper to the back so that when you glue it, you can actually, it looks just nice on the inside. It is not just the glue that you see. So when you see it's just the glue in the inside, this really, I personally think it just adds that extra little bit of touch. I fuzzy cut around my designs, and the next step is just going to adhere them to the piece of pewter. Just make sure that your piece of pewter is big enough to accommodate all your designs. If you are, or if you just do one, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do 3 feathers for this one, and do not separate them. Keep them together on one piece. If you do more than one design, it is just going to make your blackening process so much easier, and then you can just cut it out afterwards. Okay, so let's just get another one in there, and next we are going to just trace our design. Turn your design around just to make sure that everything have transferred to the back, and there's one that I didn't transfer. And also when you do work with your design or trace your design onto your pewter, you are going to be working on a paper pad, because that's going to really make it nice for you to see. First, I'm going to do the main vein that is going down the center of a feather. I actually think I'm going to I'm just grabbing another Teflon tip tool that's slightly wider than this one. Okay. And I'm working on the paper pad. I don't want it to be too high. Usually I would work onto a softer surface, but for today I'm just going to use a paper pad for embossing. And then we're going to turn it around to the front and come in with our paper stump. And we're going to flatten around and refine the line. And there I just went into the line. When that happens, just go back onto your hard surface and retrace the line with your Teflon tip tool. Flatten with your paper stump and come back in with your refiner. And usually it's a matter of, it's not if it is going to happen, it's usually when it is going to happen, because I won't say in every project, but it is happening. So just refine. You can also use your Teflon tip tool to refine this. Oh, and there I just do it again. Seriously. There you go. Looks like this is done now. I really like just coming in with a little roller and just give my pewter a quick roll when I've done the embossing. So now you can decide how you would like to proceed with this. Are you going to emboss the outline sort of and then just fill it in on the inside? Are you just going to do Zentangles or scratch marks or engraving on the inside? I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start doing some engravings. I might just do, actually, I think what I am going to do is I'm going to accentuate the parts here by doing that in emboss. Because I want it to be very subtle, I'm going to use my thin Teflon tip tool, and I'm going to emboss every second one. The reason for that is so that I can come in and refine it. Okay. Do that, and I think I'll do this one. Where is this one going? Oh, where's my sketch? Oh, this one is the one that's going up right into the center there. Okay, so coming in with my paper stump on a hard surface, and I'm just flattening on the outside as well as on the inside, and now I'm going to refine. I've noticed there was quite a bit of a disconnect there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Teflon tip tool and I'm going to place it inside that line and just push through so that I can connect these so that it at least look as though the feathers is coming out of that middle, I don't know, do you call it a vein, or I don't know what you call it. If you know, please let me know in the comments what you call it. So in there, put it in. It started from in there. I should have thought about that before the time. Okay, so now it doesn't look as disjointed. So just flattening, give it a quick flat. And now I'm going to refine. And I'm first doing the outside. You can work on each and every feather at the same time. It doesn't matter. It's all how you prefer working or how your work order is. Some days I would do all the outsides and then the insides. Other days I would focus on one at a time. I think I'm actually going to come in with my metal stylus here. Just find that I have a little bit more control with it sometimes. So I'm basically going to do exactly the same what I'm doing now to all three the feathers. This feather is a little bit small to show how to do Zentangles. I did ask in my newsletter what is one thing that they would like me to do a video of, and Zentangle was one of the top ones in there. So, but I'm going to try. So I'm actually just going to make more scratching, but what I think I will do one time is just do a feather with Zentangles, because you can get the most gorgeous feathers using Zentangle. So all I'm doing now is I'm basically just fold this in with little scratch marks or mark making, just so that we can have some kind of what can we do? Let's do scratch marks on this side, and we'll do those scratch marks on that side. So I'm just playing around here. Let's do little bubbles in here. So at this point, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back onto my paper pad, and I'm just going to follow this line and just do little feather lines in here. Some of it is we're going to cut off, but at least it will just have that feeling of, okay, this is a feather. I'm just adding. It gives it a little bit of movement as well, because this feather doesn't have a lot of movement. It feels pretty stiff. Although, as I said, when it's a smaller feather, a bigger feather with the Zentangles, you can really get very beautiful feathers. And usually a feather have these small little loose ones, that is stray ones that's at the bottom. So I'm not going to be worried about that now, as I'm not going to be cutting that out. So I'm just going to do a little bit like that. I'm going to complete the other two feathers, and I'm going to use a similar method than what I did here. And then once that is completed, we will move on to the next step. These are definitely not the best feathers I've ever made. You know what? It is for this project, and I'm really going to use it. Some days you work and you just feel like, this is not exactly how I wanted it to be, but just embrace it and look back at that and see where you can improve on the next time that you make a feathers. So I'm definitely going to make some feathers again soon. Next up is the band that is going to go around the container. So I know for this one, as I've mentioned, this is 7.5 inches long and it is 1 inch wide. I have no rhyme or reason. I really don't know what I'm going to do yet. I will, as I'm continue on, I will definitely do some embossing and just some engravings in between. But if you do have a cuttlebug or a big shot, you can just run it through there with an embossing folder, and you can get all these different quick and easy designs. But I was thinking, you know, doing it without any of the embossing so that we can really do everything hand embossing. So I think I'm just going to go and I'm going to do zigzags on the back here, turn it around to the front, and flatten it. Come in with my refiner and refine. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to do this on a softer mat and just see. How that is going to pan out for us. Back onto the hard surface. Yep, this looks a little bit better. And come in and refine. So at this point, you can also decide if you want to separate them or if you would like to have it as a continuous line. I think I'm just going to go with a continuous line. Okay, so I'm going to do the zigzags on this whole strip. Triangles is not really the same size, but that doesn't matter, it's art. So next what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a different design or scratch marks in each and every triangle, and I'm going to sort of follow what I've done here. So with the last feather, I've just done the little feather marks. So I think I'll start with this one. And I'll just go and sort of do the lines like that. And I'll move on to each and every section and do a different one, or try and do a different one, or I might just do it crossover. Like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, and then I will move this one, so you might end up with two that's the same next to each other, but that's also going to be fine because that's going to be part of the design. Next up is going to be blackening. So we're basically going to color in everything with our water-based permanent marker, and then from there we are going to wipe it off again. feel this project needs some color, and I don't want to do color on the feather, so I was thinking, okay, I'm going to add color to the band that goes around. And I had a look at these ones and then just sort of seeing which ones is going to work with that. I was looking at the juniper, the meadows, the cranberry, and the pink sherbet. So those are the 4 colors I'm going to use. And yeah, it's always handy to have something like this with the colors that you have, whether it's alcohol inks or acrylics, doesn't matter. And when it comes to the alcohol inks, I'm literally just going to put a drop in there and just spread it around. You can't really, alcohol inks doesn't really, well, let me rephrase. Alcohol inks is really good to work with on metal, but you have to be very careful, because if you go in double, you can actually lift it up. So you mustn't fiddle too much with it. So this is the pink sherbet. And I think while I have the pink here, I'm just going to go in with the cranberry. So the cranberry I'll do on the circles here. Woo, that's now way too much. Oh, whoops. Let's see if I'm going to be able to clear that off. Oops. Okay. Just going to grab another piece here. I'm going to spray some alcohol. You can also use acetone for this. I just feel I always have the alcohol handy on my desk, so I'll just use that. With this now, of course, I'm taking some of the blackening away too. So that will be green, and the, oh, I should have done that. Okay. And next we're just going to come in with the lighter pink again. It's the sherbet. Add a drop and just spread it around. Yeah, looking at this now, the cranberry might be just a bit too dark. But it will work. So I'm going to do exactly the same with the green. Going to add Sookwang tape to this. And one thing about alcohol inks that you need to keep in mind, because it's alcohol based, and usually your lacquer sprays is a solvent, which means that if you're going to spray it directly, or as soon as you've worked with this, it is most probably going to change the look of your alcohol ink. It might become like little spotty. So wait until it dries and before you seal it with a lacquer spray. Of course, you can also you know, just seal it with some varnish, paint on varnish, which is water based. You can do that as well. I actually think this just needs something there. I'm quickly going to grab one of my texture wheels. I grab my 2 dots and a dash, and I'm just going to go right on the edge. I'm just going to forward, backwards movements. You don't really going to see it, but I think it will just give it a little bit of a finish. No, you can't really see it. Oh, you know what? It's because the tape is on. So I actually think I'm going to make a switch, and I'm going to go over to the big dotted wheel. That might show up better. Yes. It's just because the Sookwang tape is there, so you can't really see the texture wheel. So I would suggest, if you want to round it off with a texture wheel, to definitely do that before you add the Sookwang tape. But when I looked down at it at that point, I didn't think it needed something until now. Okay. And the 2 short sides, well, the one you're really not even going to notice because it will go underneath. Okay. Next step is to adhere the pewter strip to the paper, and you have to make sure that when you do adhere it, that you are adhering it to the wrong side of the paper. And just line it up, push it down. And the reason why you have to do it to the wrong side is when you're going to put it up against the container, then you will be able to see that on the inside. So this is really going to be layered up, because now we are going to add another piece of Sookwang tape to this, and this is the paper now. So we're going to line it up again. And make sure you get a good adhesion. And just cut it. So I did go a little bit skew there, but I'm not going to fiddle too much with that. I grabbed some of my off-cut pieces of Sookwang tape. What I'm doing now is I'm just cutting around my feathers, because I don't want to cut it out and then put the Sookwang tape on, because then I have to cut it out again. But by doing this, at least I don't waste that much of the tape, although I didn't cut much away, yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to see how I can fit this on here. Okay. This one will work here. And this one can work there. Just find a small piece for this. So it's either going to work or it's just going to be too small. looks like it's going to make it. And now it is just cutting out. Oh, let me just get smaller scissors. And I'm just cutting out on the outside lines here around the design. You can also use the dry needle cutter for this, but because this is not really finicky cutting, I'm just using my scissors for this. Just don't want to leave a sharp edge there, so I'll go a little bit wider. And I would always come in from the opposite side to trim those ones. I'm going to quickly cut out the other two feathers as well. Time to put our project together. First, we are going to add the bands around. So after we can get the Sookwang tape loose, the backing, there you go. And that's why I like working with this one, because it sort of have a natural place where you can actually fit it or put it down. And I'm just going all around, and there you can see on the inside, at least now you have the paper and you don't just see the Sookwang tape. And line this up, skew. I'm just going to cut this at an angle where it joins up there. I need to go at a different angle. There you go. And now you can just decide which side you would like to have your feathers or your design that you've done, whether you want to do it on that side, or are you going to put it here where you have the joint together. I don't know if I want this looks more and more like leaves to me than what it actually looks like feathers. I pulled off another feather here, but that's a real one, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I can play around with it, but no, I don't think so. So it's just playing around. I just don't. I think I'm just going to go with 2 of these. Yes, I think I'm just going to do with the 2. Yeah. So I'm going to, again, just remove the Sookwang tape, put it down. That other one really looked like a leaf to me, and that's why I actually started cutting in these points. There you go. And because there is sharp edges, just make sure that you do put them nice and neatly or rub them nice and neatly together. And double check that if somebody rubs over it, it's not going to lift up and cut them, because we don't want that. And now we can just put our little candle in, and our little candle holder or votive at least, is done. Our little tea light votive is done, and I just use these battery operated little candles from the tea candles from the dollar store. You can also use real ones in here. I did test specifically these yogurt ones, and I've let one of those tea candles burn for the whole day or until it died out and the glass could stand with it. Or you can use the bigger one. Being daylight, you can't really see, but it really just gives it a little bit of an ambiance when you are using it. So think of the possibilities, you know, just putting maybe 2 or 3 of them together in a group, wrap them up as a gift to somebody. It's a fairly quick project to do. I chose to use do feathers with mine today, although it almost looks like leaves just because they're a little bit smaller. But you know, butterflies, there's so many possibilities, flowers that you can emboss and put it on there. So as always, thank you so much for spending time with me in the studio today, and always remember, the world of reality has its limits, the world of imagination is boundless.